Hello everyone, welcome to your Friday edition of the Blood Red podcast, brought to you by the Liverpool Echo. I'm your host Theo Squires, and it's Merseyside Derby weekend. For such occasions, you want to be joined by men you'd go to war with. So no Ian Doyle this one. I'm joined instead by our Liverpool correspondent, both home and away, Paul Gorst. How are you, Gorst?
I'm good, yes, but the concept of me going to war is not what I'm quite on board with. I would be a conscientious objector, I think, if I had my time.
But you've got your fair share of Merseyside derbies under your belt now.
Yes, yeah, that is true, yeah. Still think my favourite one was at Goodison, actually. And Liverpool absolutely battered Everton, was a 4-1.
Yes, the raffle one. For
yeah, and there was the one against Marco Silva's Everton just before Christmas.
The 5-2.
But other than that, they are generally tense and tight affairs, aren't they? And
these are very happy memories for producer Ian, aren't they?
Yes, and I guess we might be in for another one tomorrow. We'll get into it, I guess.
Also joining us is Rich with a very new appropriate nickname, the General Garnett. How are you doing, Rich?
I'm not too bad, mate. I was just thinking in my head then that my date of birth is actually nearer to the end of World War II than it is to the present day. So I might be better equipped for going to war. Maybe not, actually. But
born in the 50s.
Steady on. Yeah, but no, good to be here. I'm just looking at our nice new studio here. I was going
to say it's your first time in here, isn't it?
First time in here, some excellent masonry work. I'm impressed, yeah, so should be a good show.
Before we dive into all the Derby talk, we will look back on Atletico Madrid as Liverpool somehow miraculously struck a late winner for the fifth game in a row. It beggars beyond belief at this point, doesn't it? But there's only one thing you can rely on more than a late Reds winner these days. That's right, it's a shout out to the sponsors on the Blood Red podcast, NordVPN. Goes without saying, doesn't it? Goes without saying. It's always there.
I was on board with Nord, mate.
We are on board with Nord, yeah.
To get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/bloodred. Our link will also give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link, as ever, is in the podcast episode description box. Just check with producer Ian. Is Rich's name in that description box now? Not yet. Rich is here. You can see on camera that he is here. If you read in the bio, you won't, but we'll get you added, Rich. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, yeah, it's all right. No personal offense.
You've missed the obvious link between the war metaphor and the general.
That's why I called him the General.
No, I thought we agreed that you are the general now because...
I'm a general sports editor is my new title, so...
But the general sounds quite...
Yeah, I like
quite
it.
lofty.
It sounds like something like Paul Ince would call himself.
Yeah,
type of thing, yeah. We're going to start coming on the podcast. I'm just going to put my shirt on as I come into the room.
Collar up.
Well, as ever, we're live on YouTube and Facebook now, I believe, as well. No? Oh, sorry. Producer Ian stitched me up there. We are live on YouTube, so send in your questions and your comments. We will get to them at some point during the show. And let's start with Atletico Madrid. It was a very exciting game. You both there, gentlemen? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you were, Gorsty. A lot more one-sided than that scoreline suggested. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was. I said on Monday's pod, was it? That this is probably not the worst. That sounds a bit harsh, but, I mean, not a vintage Atletico Madrid side. Certainly the one of the 3 Liverpool have played in the last 5 years. And the first 6 minutes, you know, that's playing out to be true, isn't it? You know, Liverpool come herring out the traps, you know, the like of which we haven't really seen this season. Typical Anfield European night stuff. Salah gets his goal, thought he was excellent. And then just sort of took their eye off the ball a little bit, didn't he, towards the last maybe 20 minutes in the first half. Llorente pilfers one back, which probably could have been offside.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that was allowed.
In front of Alisson's view. But what it did like, it was in terms of refereeing decisions, was VAR didn't intrude that much. And it's very much a thing on the continent where it's not as invasive as it is in the Premier League. You know, that one where the penalty gets overturned, which was the correct decision. You imagine if that was in the Premier League, they would have looked at that for 2-3 minutes and would have probably still come to the same decision. So I thought that was good. But yeah, no, Liverpool were good. You know, Atletico Madrid, really good side. Liverpool made them look very ordinary. It was in large swathes of it. Very unfortunate to concede the goal they did. You know, Marcus Llorente, it's a wonderful volley, but it takes a big deflection off Alexis McAllister. And
it's not even a proper deflection, is it? Just outstretched leg hits the heel.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, he wouldn't strike the volley as well, and it wouldn't take the deflection either. So they were unfortunate there, but there was like a wall of noise from the cop when Llorente equalised, and it wasn't like a reaction of frustration or deflation or anything like that. It was almost like a let's pick these lads up and go again, because I think the start of the season has shown to the fans as much as anyone else that these late goals can be scored, and the more you do it, the more you get a habit for it, the more it becomes a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy thing, and the more opposition teams know that you're capable of doing it, and I think that is ultimately what's happened. So it was no surprise to me at all when Virgil van Dijk nods in the winner.
Well, I'll give you credit for that, because I said to you, didn't I, after the Llorente equaliser, do you think they'll do it again? Not having as much confidence as you, but you're emphatic. Yeah, of course they're going to.
Yeah, it's just they've just got a knack of doing it, haven't they? And we'll run out one day, but to have it in the armoury is a useful skill to have, and I'm sure Arne Slot would rather his team put teams to bed a lot sooner, but it just shows that you keep playing, plugging away, and eventually you can get your reward. So it's becoming a bit tough for us with the old rewrites, isn't it, this season? But we'll take that every game of the season, I guess, if it means Liverpool carry on winning.
Now, Rich, you'll remember Fergie time very, very well from the 90s. It's now slottage time, I believe.
Slottage time? That meant something else when I was younger. But, look, I think I said on a previous podcast, didn't I, that Manchester United pretty much ruined my teenage years with the number of late goals that they scored. But when you look at it, there's no surprise that they scored so many late goals as they did, because they had the belief in doing it. And we're seeing that now. It's exactly to Gorsty's point, really, but we're seeing that now with Liverpool. If they've got a goal they need to score late on, they're prepared to go right to the end to get it. And not only that, they look like scoring it as well. You know what I mean? It's not like they're just toiling and looking like they get nowhere with it. They've got the firepower. I thought they played really well the other night. I was really impressed with Liverpool in large swathes of the match, but they just didn't manage to put it to bed, did they? And that was what created the problem. And Atletico are a well-seasoned European side with very good players. As soon as Griezmann started to get a little bit more space and he was able to sort of impose himself on the game a little bit more, I think that gave us a few problems. And obviously the lad Llorente's come up with 2 goals, hasn't he? And his volley, as you say, he's given that a right old tonk, and that's what's got it in the net, hasn't it? So fair play to them. And our old mate Simeone has given us plenty of drama as the pantomime villain on the line as well. So a good evening all round, really. And yeah, I know Liverpool want to win games more comfortably than that, but from a spectator perspective, it was marvellous.
I think Liverpool's fitness levels allows them to do this sort of stuff as well. In the manner that they are, they're supremely fit, and they have been for a number of years. Really, it's clearly a part of the recruitment process when they're looking to bring players in. Jurgen Klopp was famed for it, wasn't he? His ability to whip players into shape, and I don't think Arne Slot is too different really with his coaching staff.
I think he's, if anything, taking it to the next level, because they don't get too many injuries now.
Well, yeah, I mean there is that as well. That's a good point. So, the fact that you're staying fitter for longer is not just a physical thing; it's also a mental one that allows you to make these decisions late into games, and you're not just tired in your decision making and your efforts to Szoboszlai's corner, for example, it was right on the money, wasn't it? It wasn't a corner of a tired player taking one in the 92nd minute. It was right on the mark, and Van Dijk, powers it in. So I think that is a part of it as well. The fact that Liverpool are, they're able to just keep going until the final whistle.
And with that corner, that winning goal, it wasn't a case of last throw of the dice. They had a succession of corners. It did feel like they were knocking at the door there. And there is just this added mentality, like Jurgen Klopp famously called them the mentality monsters. But again, it feels like they've taken it to a new level now with that confidence of winning the Premier League, players that have done it for the club, new signings coming in. It just feels like that they are the team to beat at the moment.
Yeah, I think, do you know what? I think it's a skill you have to learn as well, winning games late on. I remember Manchester City for a long time really struggled doing that. With most weeks they were home and hose quite early on, but the odd time when they were caught cold and they needed something to pull something out the fire, they didn't really do it a lot until, I can't remember it exactly, but
you're getting City fans going at you with Aguero here.
No, well, actually, that is the one for that. But a few years later on, you're looking at the Aston Villa game where they obviously come back and win the league with that victory, and then after they did that, it seemed to be a little bit easier for them to to go to the well and pull something out the fire. And, that's certainly something Liverpool are able to do at the moment. What is it, 5 games in a row now? And the earliest they've won any of those 5 games was the 83rd minute. What was it? Chiesa in the 88th, was it? Against Bournemouth, Rio and Gamora in the 100th. There's a Bosley there. And
that was 80 something, wasn't it?
Yeah, 83. Yeah. What was Burnley 95?
95.
With the penalty, and then 92 with Van Dijk. So, yeah, it's, like I say, it's a skill to be able to do it, but I'm sure Arne Slot won't want to have to use it every single week.
It's bad news for the early darters, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, the traffic.
Are you one of those early darters?
Well, I have to be careful what I say here. If I'm driving, I'm not really. But if and I'm kind of just point out, I've been to the end of every game this season. But midweek, if you're driving, it'd be hell to get out of Anfield because they built a bigger stadium and didn't really do anything about travel infrastructure, which is a bit mad. But
that sounds like your next first person piece.
Well, yes, that sounds very boring. But yeah,
how's the back these days?
Well, it's still as bad as ever. But yeah, I'm not suggesting we file a load of bendy buses up there. By the way, I think we need something a bit more novel than that to fix the getting traffic away from Anfield. But yeah,
I mean, a railway station would be nice, wouldn't it?
Well, if only there was already an existing line that had been there for years or something that could be reopened. I don't know.
If only our neighbours hadn't decided to use the stadium for a stadium and instead knocked it down for something else.
Well, I could have built a new train. That's an idea, actually. Goodison Park train station's got a bit of a ring to it. I'm sure our producer would like that.
I did want to touch back on something you'd already mentioned, Rich, and it was surely at some point it's going to become a bit more comfortable for them. It can't rely on these late winners. But considering the start, it did look like it was going to be a lot more comfortable for them at some point. And you look at some of the missed chances there when you had the link-up play between Isa converts and Frimpong misses his kick. You got chances for Ekitike when he comes on. They still could have scored a fair few more.
Oh, most definitely. 5 minutes in, you're thinking we're going to blow these out the water here. But, of course, experience tells you it's only a 2-0 lead, and a 2-0 lead can be overturned quite quickly. Salah scores his chance. Is it game over? There were other opportunities. Yeah. The build-up play was superb. There was some. We've got really good players here now. Not that we didn't have good players before, but I just feel like that level's gone up again. And Wirtz he's still sort of settling in. I think his link-up play with Isak looked good, and there's miles more to come from him. I think I've got a slight concern over his physicality, but I think that's something.
His lack of it,
or lack of, yeah,
right,
yeah. So, which is a concern I haven't got with Ekitike, by the way, who looked an absolute menace when he came on. I thought the other night I've kind of really taken to him already, but I think Slot should I'm sure he'll get a handle on that with Wirtz, and they'll come up with a plan that basically allows him to be more dangerous, I think. But that's to come. But yeah, there's so much talent in this team, it's ridiculous.
I thought it was his best game for Liverpool, actually. Florian Wirtz, he grew into it, which seems to be the case, doesn't it, of late? He certainly did that against Arsenal, and I thought he was a little bit unlucky not to have a couple of assists, really. Lays it on a play for Salah, having started the move so well, in the beginning of it, sort of picks it up on the edge of his own box.
Didn't help him that him and Szoboszlai kind of got in each other's way a little bit.
It was fine. He's laid it in for Salah, hasn't he? And he should really have taken it, and it was a big surprise when he hits the post. There was one in the first half, wasn't there, with a lovely little give and go with Isak, and I thought his link-up play was promising with Isak, given that they've never played together before. Obviously, we know Isak hasn't played at all, or much at all, at least for 4 months. So I thought that was quite encouraging. That's something to build on, something to look out for. The fitter they get, the more used that Wirtz gets to playing in the Premier League. So that was encouraging. And certainly in the second half, he's a lovely player to watch, isn't he? Every time he gets it, he just sort of rolls the shoulders and picks up the space, and he doesn't stop moving. He's always giving. He's always looking on the move to pick it up again. And he's going to be a big player for Liverpool. I'm convinced of it. And, tomorrow in the derby could be the perfect opportunity for him to really take flight.
I don't know if it was on your list of things to talk about anyway, Theo, but I couldn't let it pass without saying how impressed I've been with Ryan Gravenberch, to be honest with you. Yeah. I just think, bear in mind, this was someone who was struggling to get a game at Bayern Munich for whatever reason that was, and he's obviously had a great season last year. but it just looks like on another level.
I'd say he's almost reaching that Van Dijk level of he's so good, you sort of take it for granted now. It's just become the norm that he is an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, week after week after week.
He looks like, I don't know whether he's put some weight on or bulked up or what, but he looks like a proper unit now. And he's obviously still got the touch and the technique to go alongside that, and he just seems shrugging players off and turning defence into attack without even touching the ball. He just drops the shoulder, lets it run across him, and everyone knows he's going to do it when he receives the ball with his back to the opposition goal. But it's one thing knowing it and another thing entirely stopping it. And he's just a lovely player to watch. He gets in behind the opposition midfield, gets Liverpool really on the front foot, and had a big hand in both goals, didn't he? He wins the free kick. And it was a similar situation where he just sort of jinks on the edge of the box and plays the ball into Salah, who sticks it away. So he's one of the best midfielders in Europe at the moment.
You've almost stole my thunder there, really, because...
Sorry, Rich.
That's all right, I'll let you off, big man.
Big man who go to war.
Who won't go to war.
Yeah, no, I won't go to war. I'd never want to steal the General's thunder, though.
I'd be hiding in the loft. No, the point I was going to make was he's that type of player. If anyone who's ever played football and you play against someone,
you'd hope our audience has played football.
That's good news. It's the type of player that you play against who they're a good player and you kind of know what they're going to do, but you cannot do anything about it because they're that good. And that's how I just see him, the way he's playing at the moment, the way he glides and turns on the football pitch. And no one seems to be able to get near him.
The little flick over the guy at Burnley. That was one that went viral. That was beautiful to watch. But there's so many of them that season.
Yeah, and I mean, that turn he does in the middle, the sort of that drop of the shoulder. How many times does he do? But it works every time. And you can't tell me those midfielders don't know that he's probably going to do something like that. They probably do, but they just can't deal with it. He's in for some season, I'm telling you. You heard it here.
Is there a more informed midfielder than Ryan Gravenberch at the moment?
I can't think of many in the Premier League. He obviously hasn't played every minute, has he? But he just looks so smooth and comfortable in possession and so integral to what Liverpool are trying to do. There's a reason he's the PFA, or was it the Premier League's Young Player of the Year?
Premier League. I think he was too old for PFA.
Right. But, his best years are ahead of him, and what a brilliant player he has proven to be. Certainly under Arne Slot, I think he's been the most improved on the slot. And sometimes that is a bit of a euphemism, but he's gone from being, on the fringes of the first team to being an integral sort of first 2 or 3 names on the team sheet.
I might ask producer Ian what he thinks of Ryan Gravenberch, considering he's not got the red tinted glasses there. Is he a big fan? You worried for Saturday against him in midfield?
He's player of the month.
Player of the month.
Winger.
Yeah. What are you thinking? You worried about Ryan?
You don't want me on this, mate.
That's dodged very effectively. From the midfielder with Ryan Gravenberch, we'll move on to the £125 million man up front, and Alexander Isak. Had to wait a long, long time to make that first Liverpool appearance if we include the entire transfer saga. But I'd say it was worth the wait. That was a very good hour showing for him, considering he's had very limited game time this summer.
Yeah, I thought he was really good. Good movement. I know Slot said he was surprised by his fitness levels, though he's kind of slightly contradicted that today in his presser by saying he's got concerns about them. But for someone who's obviously not had a proper pre-season, he's just slotted in effortlessly, really. And he has got a real conundrum there with Isak and Ekitike, and how he's going to manage the minutes between them. Are they going to play together, or is he just going to have this...
next month's problem, that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. He's going to have some sort of unbelievable, rotation option on his plate, which is, I guess, is the way why Liverpool have spent the money they've spent this summer and built the type of squad there where there's so many players who are interchangeable. But yeah, he's slotted him very well there. I can see him getting a ton of goals. I did say a few weeks ago that if he signed for Liverpool, I thought he would be Liverpool's top scorer this season. He has signed, so hopefully he comes good on that. And tomorrow against Everton won't be a bad place to start.
Yeah, I don't expect him to start tomorrow. I wasn't surprised to see him start Wednesday night after he completely sat out the Burnley game. Liverpool have been working out behind the scenes to get him up to speed, haven't he? I think he had a sort of bespoke training session on the Saturday, so that meant that it was a recovery session for him on the Sunday, which is why he missed Burnley. And I think Slot said today in his press conference that he was sort of feeling the effects of an hour, against an intense team like Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, having played only 18 minutes since May, and that was obviously for Sweden against Kosovo. So, yeah, it'll take some time before he's up to speed 100%, but it was an encouraging hour. I only expected him to play 45 minutes, to be honest, so I was a bit surprised when he came out for the second half. But some nice link-up play with Wirtz, lovely turn shot. A couple of occasions, wasn't the one that was on target for Oblak. Enough there to be encouraged by, but obviously we know that he's not going to be up to, the sort of form that made him the British record transfer just yet, and that's absolutely fine. I thought his little back heel to Wirtz and then the run off the ball was sort of a little bit of a little sighted of what he is capable of. And just, be good to see him get maybe 15, 20 minutes tomorrow, provided that, it all goes to plan and Liverpool don't need a 97th minute winner again or whatever.
We'll probably see Isak for 15, 20 minutes. One man you can guarantee will be starting is Mohamed Salah. Much more like it from him against Atletico midweek. He gets a goal, he gets maybe a bit of a lucky assist, but he could have had a couple of each, really. When he's not been as involved in some games this season, that was a lot more like it from him, wasn't it, Rich?
Yeah, he looked a bit more like the old Mo Salah there, didn't he? And he's always going to weigh in with the goals, I think, and the way he plays sort of determines that he'll always be there with assists as well. That's what he's sort of built his Liverpool legacy on, really. But I think with players like Isak and Ekitike coming in and Wirtz, I do see his role changing this season, and I'm not saying he'll be marginalised. That sounds like the wrong thing to say, and it's not really what I mean. But I suppose what I'm trying to say is I think certainly the dependency on him is going to be reduced, which is a good thing because it eventually needs to be replaced. And he might not feature as prominently in games as he did previously. I kind of liken it to the Ronaldo situation, really, before he decided to move to Saudi Arabia, where his role kind of, you wouldn't see a lot of him in games, but then he'd score a goal or get an assist or take a penalty or whatever. And I kind of, if you think in terms of sort of managing Salah's age and his fitness and how he can impact games, I kind of think it will go sort of the same way, personally. The
exciting thing for me is, he might finish top scorer again for Liverpool for what will be the 9th season running, I think. But you just said there, Rich, that you think Isak will be Liverpool's top scorer, and I just think the amount of goals that Isak will score from Salah assists. He obviously had that lovely understanding with Darwin Núñez, didn't he? And he should have had a fair few more assists than he got, really, out of Núñez, with a number of chances which went begging. But I think Isak's going to be more prolific, so I think that bodes well, really. They're not. I don't think they're both going to score 30 goals apiece. I think they will have to sort of figure out how it's all going to work over time. But I think Salah, being the creator that he is now over the last couple of seasons, I think adding that string to his bow will only benefit Isak, who doesn't need 2 chances to score 1 goal.
And one other talking point from the team in midweek was Andy Robertson coming in at left back after Milos Kerkez's difficult day at Burnley. I thought he did very well, gets his goal early on, might not know much about it. But it's good to see Andy Robertson can still contribute, because a lot of people had written him off, thought he might move on in the summer. He's Liverpool vice-captain now, and he's showing he can still do a job. Be no surprise if he starts tomorrow.
Well, he's doing that classic thing, which is the mark of a good player, is that when players are signed to replace you and you fight back and either see them off or compete with them, and that's exactly what he's done. I think in the summer we were, there was a little bit of talk if Robin might have left, and
it would have been Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, well, there you go. And it could have been Tsimikas who stayed as a result of that. And it was a case of, does he want guaranteed minutes, or is he prepared to just fight for his place and see where that takes him? And it's worked out as the latter, and that is only going to be to Liverpool's benefit, because you've got 2 people competing for that left back spot, and you're not going to come across a fiercer competitor than Andy Robertson. So of all the new signings, I would say that probably Kerkez has got the biggest fight on his hands to cement that place, because Andy Robbo's not going to give it up lightly, and we've seen that already.
Yeah, sorry, Theo. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. I think on the other side as well, there's a really healthy competition developing between Frimpong and Conor Bradley.
And Dominic Szoboszlai.
yeah, and Szoboszlai. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe, as Robertson learned something from Jordan Henderson's situation, who was maybe a little bit too rash and, agitating for a move out the club, having been told that the players coming in his position. Didn't quite work out for Henderson, did it? Moving to Saudi Arabia, and then within 6 months he was back at Ajax and is now back in the Premier League at Brentford. Maybe Robertson has looked at it and thought, well, Kerkez is a young player who was going to need some development time, and I can put an arm around his shoulder, but I can also play ahead of him if he takes some time getting used to it. So yeah, it was good to see him back in the team. I thought he played well. And I think Liverpool have got a really nice balance there on the left side of the defence now.
Sticking with you, Gorst, you're at Arne Slott's pre-match press conference today. Not too many lines from it. You've already touched on the Isaac fitness answer, but Curtis Jones is back. Liverpool with a fully fit squad for this one.
Yeah, back in the fray. Arne Slot took a little bit of humour out of the phrasing of the question, didn't he? I don't think he knew what in the fray meant or back in the fray.
I thought he said frame, so that means I just completely
fray.
misheard.
It was, yeah. It was Will Rooney of Liverpool World who asked the question, and I think Arne Slot said, "Is that a Scouse saying?" Because Will's a Scouser, but
it always seems to be Will who he needs to have it repeated to him for.
Is that maybe because he sits at the back? But yeah, it's good news on Curtis being back in the squad tomorrow. An important player, isn't he? In that midfield shake-up. Don't expect him to start, given he might not necessarily be 100%, but he's going to be needed for the weeks ahead. Maybe he gets a start against Southampton next Tuesday and can look to build up some minutes and stake a claim there. But yeah, good news to have him back, and Liverpool looking really good actually on the injury front, aren't they? Which we haven't been able to say too often over the last 2 years, I'd say.
If you look at that squad now, how many of those players do you think are satisfied to settle for a backup role, on the bench?
Yeah, not many.
I don't think there's too many.
Endo,
maybe
Chiesa,
maybe on the face of it, but probably not deep
Joe
down.
Gomez,
perhaps. You've named a few.
No, yeah,
what did the Romans ever do for us?
No. But what I'm saying is, I'm naming players who are very obviously not first choice.
Yeah, you've saved me well there.
I don't think any of them have necessarily had the offer put in front of them to make the decision. There's been talk of it could come, and then it doesn't quite get over the line, and then they just stay professional, don't they? They still do the job for Liverpool.
Well, it's not a bad job to keep, is it? I guess, but I think the supposed point I'm trying to make really is that picking a first 11 is not an easy process for Arne Slot, and that's a very, very good thing because it shows the competition for places is so hard now. And if everyone's fully fit as well, can you imagine what those training sessions are like? They must be pretty intense. Yeah. Everyone trying to sort of force their own agenda. So, and not everyone's going to be happy, are they? But that will be the challenge for them, is to try and keep that harmonious atmosphere whilst they continue to keep winning games and trying to pick up trophies.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good point you make. I wasn't trying to counter your point. I was trying to back it up. I think
he's got your back, the general.
I think if we picked our Liverpool 11 when everyone's fit, they wouldn't necessarily all be the same team, and that's only a good thing. And last season, Liverpool, obviously fantastic Premier League winners and all that sort of stuff, but it was mainly done by the work of the same 13 or 14 players. I think now with
it's 15 or 16
the recruitment
now,
work, you're looking at maybe 16, 17, chopping and changing, either full-back on either side.
The number 8. The left winger to an extent.
Even in goal, obviously Alisson is the first choice, but they've got a £30 million international keeper to step in his place, if not, who's 9, 10 years younger than them. So Liverpool at the moment in a really, really good place with their with the makeup of the squad and the lack of injuries.
Derby day tomorrow. How are you feeling, Rich?
Well, you know what they say. Form goes out the window for a derby. So I think it would be a bit daft to get carried away. Obviously, they've won the first 5, all with late winners. I'm sure we'd take another bounce off the crossbar in front of Jordan Pickford type winner if it actually came to it. But I don't know how sustainable last-minute winners are. Having said that, Liverpool are obviously looking great. They've still got that vulnerability because they're obviously conceding some goals. And under David Moyes, Everton are extremely well drilled, so it's certainly not going to be an easy match. I just think Liverpool probably got enough firepower to edge it. and I'm going to go with 2-1.
Okay. Just shooting the gun there. That's a bit too early. We're not asking for predictions
Oh,
yet.
sorry. I'll give you
for you, mate.
I'll give you
Shoot
I'll give you a
first.
different one later.
Of course, the Everton are in decent enough form. They've signed well. They've actually got players now. They could cause us trouble.
I don't know about us. It may cause Liverpool trouble.
Of course.
Yes. I mean, Jack Grealish looks like he's been an inspired signing, doesn't it? I was a little bit sceptical when he went there. It felt as though he was going to struggle to recapture the form that made him a £100 million player 4 years ago. But so far, so good for Everton on that front. Ilman and Jai looks, every time I see him, he's one of the best players on the pitch. So creative and resourceful, and he's a big player for them. You wonder whether they've got the centre forward who's going to really, do some damage for them this season and help propel them up the league. But generally, the recruitment has been good, and I think Slot said it today, didn't he? Liverpool's games against Everton were when they were in a really good run of form, Everton, and they've sort of carried that on. They've had a really good start to the season. Obviously beat Brighton, goalless draw against Aston Villa, an Aston Villa team who have got big plans themselves. So it's been a good start, but their record at Anfield is horrendous, really, isn't it? One win since 1999, and even that was in front of only the journalists who were there. So it's the place they like going the least. So Liverpool have got to capitalise on that, and might not necessarily be the most red-hot Anfield atmosphere you've ever experienced for a derby, given that it is a 12:30 kickoff, but they have to use it to their advantage in some way. And hopefully this is the game where they're not having to force myself and yourself and whoever else into late rewrites.
I've got concern's probably too strong a word, but two little warning lights going into this one. First one is we know how well Ndiaye's playing, and that Liverpool left-back position could be a concern. Kirkes, if he starts, is a walking yellow card. If it's Robertson, it's how well he's prepared for it. But then it's also, you saw how well Burnley defended last week. If there's a side that can come and do that at Anfield in a derby when form goes out the window, it's Everton. It should be a good game as far as derbies are concerned if they can shrug off that sleepy early kickoff time. But it's shaping up to be a bit more competitive than previous encounters, potentially.
Yeah, and that's to Everton's credit, isn't it? To be fair, I don't think they're going to have the type of season that they've had to endure in recent years under a succession of managers. And we know the manager's a good manager. He did a great job when he was previously at Everton, and he's sort of picked up and shown that again, really. So he's going to have his team well drilled. There will be problems to deal with down that left-hand side, and Liverpool have got to be ready for it. But as we said before, they've got a fully fit squad. He can shape that in whatever way he sees fit. He will have done his homework on how Everton will set up and be able to come up with ideas to counteract that and make sure Liverpool can stamp their authority on the game with the players that they've got, and it's for those reasons really that I'm confident about tomorrow. No other reason specifically other than that. I just think they've got the better players and are well equipped to take on Everton. So a massive job for Everton, but don't get me wrong, it won't be an easy game by any stretch.
We'll move on to some questions now. We are live on YouTube, so you've still got time to get a few of these in. First one, the Wolfman says, do you think we're going to see Mo Salah rotated at any point? Surely you can't get to AFCON without trying to bed in the alternative.
Don't see it happening too often, to be honest. Who is the alternative? Is it Federico Chiesa?
Maybe Frimpong.
Possibly. Frimpong is the one who, I think Slot's even mentioned it a couple of times, isn't it? But, why would you take Salah out the team? If you don't have to. Obviously, he's not going to play in the League Cup. I say obviously, but you're almost certain not to play in the League Cup, and maybe there's even scope to do so in the Champions League if, things are looking okay on that front. But don't want to see Salah sitting on the bench in the Premier League if he doesn't have to. So for me, same as it's always been. If Mo Salah's fit, Mo Salah plays.
I think if he keeps delivering the goals and the assists, nothing will change. If they dry up, it might be a different story.
We've got questions from Aaron and Lee about who starts at fullback. We'll save that for when we go through our lineup. So we've not forgotten you guys. We're not ignoring you. Demi asks about Simon Jordan's comments on TalkSport this week, saying Liverpool are terrible losers. I know he's had a bit of a dig at Arne Slot, saying that he's entitled or something because he was moaning about how difficult it was to break down Burnley. Have you seen these?
Well, Simon Jordan's been moaning about Liverpool since the dawn of time. If you've ever read his autobiography, you'll know what he thinks of.
Have you read Simon Jordan's autobiography?
A former work colleague lent it to me.
Wow.
Just so you know. It wasn't a bad read. They learned all about his previous life as a mobile phone.
Is that when he made his fortune, was it?
It was, yeah. It
No,
wasn't in Crystal Palace.
I haven't seen these quotes. I tend to not really listen to Simon Jordan. You know, maybe if it's about football ownership, you know, he's maybe someone who you might want to listen to, given that he did own Crystal Palace. But his general musings on football, I would steer well clear of, certainly in terms of on the pitch. So, haven't seen those comments.
I wouldn't go and rush to read
Liverpool
them.
are entitled, are they, for losing? When was the last
It's
time
more a
Liverpool
dig at
lost?
Arne Slot, the ones I saw, saying he's
Right.
entitled for moaning about Burnley being good defensively.
Well, it's been a while since he lost.
I don't think Slot did. You,
I don't
you
think
were
he
at the
did
game.
I think it's just Simon Jordan likes having a rant, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, we know Liverpool sells, don't we, in terms of the media. That's why we're doing this job. But maybe just something to say to cause some outrage and/or engagement.
We've got a couple more comments from the Wolfsman. One of them is a nice little pat on the back for producer Ian. Congratulations, producer Ian. He says, "Ooh, multiple cameras and Star Wars crossfades. This produces
Star Wars crossfades.
Star Wars crossfades.
We've not seen it. We've not got it on the screen behind producer Ian. We did try that on Monday, but his head blocked yours and Doyley's view, didn't it?
Right.
But yeah, he says the producer's got his filmic ambitions on show. So what more can we expect, producer Ian? Can we expect anything else fancy in the studio now you've got it open?
Potential third camera.
Oh, another camera.
Do you know what I was thinking when I came in? I think what I could say about the studio, and I was going to liken it to like when Blue Peter had a bit of an upgrade, and maybe we needed like a dog, like a pod dog that you came in.
Pod dog. I'll bring mine in.
If there's Star Wars transitions, maybe we get a few Ewoks in instead.
A comment from Steve Killen now, friend of the show. I suppose he's friend of all of us.
Friend of the show.
Contributor.
When
he wants to, yeah.
When was the last time he was on? When was the last time he was in the office?
Tell him we might need him on next week.
Yeah, Steve, we're short on numbers on Monday, so come in the office if you're on. He says it would be good to see Gorsty versus Simon Jordan. So you don't do wars, but would you do a Royal Rumble with Simon Jordan?
It's like a little one-on-one I quit match or something.
Do an arm wrestle.
An arm wrestle, yeah. Yeah, I suppose.
If you can get him on.
Yeah,
Calling him out.
Should be good for the numbers.
Send this clip to TalkSport.
A more serious question from the Wolfman is, we should have to get a centre-back in January. What's the situation there? I know we've said, as it stands, it's unlikely they'll go back in for Gay, and you've got Gomez, you've got Leone, but if there was an opportunity, it also wouldn't be a shock if that stance changed.
Yeah, a lot depends on what happens. At the moment, Liverpool have got 4 centre-backs who are all fit and present, and looking forward to seeing Giovanni Leone in the flesh, seeing what he's all about. He's obviously very young and inexperienced. He's only played 17 times for Parma. But Liverpool feel that he is very much one for the future. So let's see what happens with him. We know what Joe Gomez is all about. So I think they're okay at the moment. Obviously, if there's 1 or 2 injuries and they are serious ones and lengthy ones, then they might revisit that Mark Gahey stance. But as it stands, they are comfortable enough trying to get him for nothing next summer, which I'm sure they will do.
Lineups now. Now, I'd go unchanged for the back 5, but there is still plenty for Arne Slot to consider. What would you do, Rich?
I've been mulling this over while we've been sat here. So, Alisson in goal. There you go. There's a shock for you. His distribution was a little bit hit and miss, wasn't it, the other night? So just keep an eye on that, please, Ali.
If you're watching.
If you're watching, which I'm sure he is. With
They're
Simon
training
Jordan.
this afternoon, so maybe they're not. Not unless they've got it on the screen at the AXA.
Get on catch up, won't he? In normal circumstances, I'd say I'd go with Frimpong at right back, but I'm edging towards Conor Bradley as we've somehow ended up with a war theme. If I want a man going into war for me in a Merseyside derby, it probably is Conor Bradley. So I would go with Bradley, Canate, Van Dijk, and I'll stick with Andy Robbo at left back for this big fixture.
What about you, Gorsty?
I'll keep Frimpong in there. Actually, I thought he was good on Wednesday night. Still think there's a lot to come from him in both attacking and defensive sense. And I can totally get the 30 riches presented there in terms of Conor Bradley being the man for the derby, but maybe it can go too far one way. We know he's physical and he likes to tackle, and that's all good for Derby Day, but sometimes it can backfire, can't it? And
As
this is the
Anthony
fixture,
Gordon
of course,
recently found out.
Yeah, and this is the fixture with the most red cards, isn't it? So Liverpool don't want to be falling foul of that. So I'll stick with Frimpong and Robertson over Kirkhouse.
Stick in with you, Gorsty. For the midfield, I suppose the big debate is who's in at number 8. The other two probably pick themselves.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because you don't want to drop Szoboszlai. Yeah, I'll stick with. I mean, Gravenberch, like I say, one of the first names on the team sheet. And I'll stick with Szoboszlai in there, and McAllister can come off the bench. And Florian Wirtz in the number 10.
How about you, Rich?
Yeah, I'd have to go with the same, to be honest with you. And that is based on the form of the players who are in there. And he won't want to take, I wouldn't say criticise Wirtz, but, I had a slight, just a
You
little...
addressed it before I was going to bring it up.
A little question mark over the physical elements, which I suppose is obviously, I've already mentioned that with Bradley as something to be a consideration. So no reason why it shouldn't be a consideration in midfield as well. But on balance, I would go with the same midfield as Gorsty.
And in attack, I'd imagine Ekitike comes back in. But is there a case for Isak to do back-to-back starts?
I don't think so, no. We saw a bit more of him than we expected the other night. And that's to his credit, because I think he did really well. But I think the roles are going to be reversed here. And we're going to see Big Hugo down the middle, Salah on the right, and probably Gakpo on the left.
Yeah, wouldn't disagree with that. I think there's some question marks over Mikalenko's fitness, isn't there? And Jared Branthwaite as well. It'd be a couple of huge boosts, certainly with Branthwaite, if neither of those were past fit for Liverpool. I think Salah obviously starts, and Ekitike over Isak, and maybe 20 minutes for Isak to come off the bench and get some more minutes under his belt.
What's your score prediction, Gorsty?
2-0 Liverpool.
Do you remember what yours was earlier?
Can I shock you? It's 2-1. 2-1 to Liverpool, yeah.
I think I said 2-1 on Royal Blue yesterday, so maybe I'll go for a more confident 3-1 this time. Liverpool are scoring goals, but they're shipping them as well. I have actually added a new question for the end of the show for this one. If they make it 6 late winners in a row, who do you want to score the late winner for this one?
Joe Gomez.
That would be the dream, wouldn't it? Joe Gomez off the bench. Who are you going for?
You old romantic.
Yes.
Jordan Pickford own goal?
That would be hilarious. But no, I'd rather a Liverpool player scored. I will go for Florian Wirtz.
That's a good shout.
That's a good
I thought you were going to say Isak, given you've got him to be top scorer. He's got to start somewhere, hasn't he?
I've got no money on it, though. So
right.
He can
there's no
follow
shame in losing that.
Origi's path, can't he, and get a hat-trick against Southampton to kick things off.
Well, yeah.
That'll be all right, yeah.
But yeah. So I think that's all we've got time for today. You have to keep your eyes peeled for when we'll be back next, because I'm off on Monday. I believe Doyley's off on Monday. Rich, you're off on Monday. So hopefully... I'm getting there, producer Ian.
It's just be me. It's just an hour-long monologue.
So we could have an hour-long monologue with Gorsty. If Steeken bothers to come into the office, you might get to do one with him. But yeah, so just keep an eye out. Hopefully we'll be able to do a blood red before Southampton. If not, we'll be back later in the week. I'll be at Anfield for the usual post-match podcast after the derby and again after Southampton. Yeah, as I say, we'll be back for blood red at some point next week. Thanks to Gorsty, thanks to the General for joining me. Until next time, thank you and goodbye.